to Power Conversations Live with Susan and her guests. We are here to talk life, the beauty and vulnerability on the journey to self-love and evolving into our best selves. Our ultimate goal with Power Conversations is to build a platform for women who thrive. Each conversation and the guests are curated to engage in authentic, organic conversation. Tonight we are talking about amplifying authentic support, guidance, and mentoring across generations. My generation, I'm a baby boomer, proud, right? Proud baby boomer. But one of the reasons that I began Power Conversations, one of the reasons that I began Susan R. Appleton is I have come to realize that my journey has been uniquely curated to give away. Once I figured out who I was, and learned to engage myself and love myself both professionally and personally, I now know that everything that I have has been curated to engage and give away. So we want to talk about what that means for you. Of course, we have Carrie Davis.
Hello.
All right, Christine is here. And then, so we make up that seasoned part of the conversation, right? But I'd like for the younger ladies to introduce yourselves.
My name is Latoya Armstrong. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. I currently reside in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a wife, a mom, sister. What else you wanted to know?
That's it.
That's good.
And the best travel agent.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I'm Tanisha Tutt. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I am a realtor and a community connector. So I do a lot of community activations.
I'm Tia Coleman. I am a mother of two beautiful daughters. I am a business owner. Entrepreneurship is my life through and through. Author, yes.
Yes. Carrie Davis.
Hi, so I'm Carrie Davis, and I am the president and CEO of Wealth Watchers. And I am excited to have this conversation this evening with you powerful women.
All right.
And lastly, Christina Jones. I am a business broker with Florida Business Exchange, where we buy and sell businesses, and I am truly excited to be a part of this panel today.
And of course, I'm Susan Appleton. I am Appleton Communication on one hand, which is coaching and leadership development, strategic planning. And on the other hand, I am Susan R. Appleton, creating space for women to thrive. So welcome to the conversation. I wanted to start, I actually woke up with this question. And I really want to know from those that are coming behind me, right? The younger generation. As it relates to mentoring and support, you all are dynamic in what you do. You're already paving your own path in each of your respective industries. So I know for myself, I really can't tell Tanisha about real estate. It's the other way around. But when we talk about support and guidance, what is it that you all need from us? When you say, I would like to have a mentor, I would like to have guidance and support that is really authentic and that's going to accelerate me, what does that mean for you?
I think for me, transparency and honesty. I think a lot of times we experience a lot of gatekeeping in the community. So having someone a mentor to me means being transparent, me being able to be vulnerable with that person as well, because that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. So for me, that's what it means.
So when you say transparency, if I could, is that a two-way street? Is
Yes.
the expectation a two-way street?
It has to be. It has to be.
And how do you know as that relation, for me, I know as the relationship grows, because ultimately transparency for me is seeing what you're not saying, right? because we develop a relationship. So we have a little bit of transparency here, a little bit of holding back there, natural, right?
Yeah.
But then ultimately, how you doing? I'm good. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa, right? So that's very, very true, and I'm glad to hear you say it's a two-way street. What about you, Tia? What does mentorship and guidance and support mean for you? And ladies who are in your circle.
Okay, so I think there's a misconception about mentorship. A lot of people ask for a mentor and they look for the answers. And I don't think that's fair for a mentor because everybody does not have the answers. And there's infinite ways to success, right? We all have our different approaches. But for me, when I look for a mentor, I look for someone that's aligned with my personal values. Because you may have the riches, the success, the nice cars, the amazing job titles, but morally, if we aren't aligned, that's that's where the disconnect comes in. So, like I would use Miss Carrie for an example. When we first met, it was over dinner. Getting to know each other over drinks and conversation, not in a professional setting where we were both operating out of ego, like, oh, I'm Tia Coleman, I'm this, and I'm the CEO of Wealth Watchers, I'm this. So that's what I look for, like authentic connections.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. I think as far as a mentor and menteeship, it's kind of like a seesaw effect. You give and you take. There may not be a complete balance, but if you're my mentor, you're feeding into me, and as my mentee, as me being your mentee, you can grow and learn from me as well. But I also think that a lot of times when people think about a mentor, they automatically think of someone that's above their level. But you can really grow with someone who's also equal to you if you're going after the same thing. You have the same common goals. Like she said, things that align with her morally. So in my business, my line, my mentor, her and I are on the same playing field. However, instead of, like Tia said, instead of just showing me things, she's like, okay, Toy, what do you think about this? So she challenges me. So as a mentee, I can't expect my mentor just to feed me. I have to bring myself to the table and be ready to receive, but also ready to give what I need. And I think a lot of times the relationship is kind of confused in that situation. But as long as we go in knowing that the person does not have to be above you, but that you can get someone that's equal to your playing level.
I agree. Carrie, you want to chime in?
So, it's interesting when we talk about that mentor-mentee relationship, right? It's almost like people think it's a hierarchy. So to be a mentor, I need to be like a parental figure, and I need to tell you what to do, and I need to guide you. And as the mentee, your job is to listen and do what I say. But I think LaToya said it best, it's a reciprocal relationship. And Tia, again, I have to echo what she says. First, there has to be an alignment with our spirits. First, I have to trust that you have my best interest at heart, and that there's no ill will, ill intention. Because sometimes we have individuals who will agree to be your mentor because they just want to see what you're doing. So their purpose, their goal is not to help you thrive, but to determine what you're doing and figure out how they can take it to better their own position.
And isn't that, and Christine, I'd like to hear from you as well, but that's where a very thin line of competition, right? And one of the criteria, whether it's mentor, menteeship, support, or guidance, for me is, can you be okay with yourself? Do you trust you? Are you confident in you? And do I have to, as we say, bring a crown to you on every occasion? I want you to fix mine. I want to be able to fix yours. But I don't want to carry the weight of doing that all the time. So, and I think to not be that, each person has to be somewhat, not in every area, because we're never 100% confident in every area of our lives, but please have some confidence, because then we can engage and we can have a conversation, right? Christina, what are your thoughts?
You brought up a good point, Susan. Just dragging the person along, that's not what a mentor is supposed to do. And with that, respecting the relationship is truly important. What do I mean by that? If you're seeking a mentor, obviously you have your eye on somebody already, right? You've done your research. Have you read their book? Have you taken their course? Have you sat with them, just listen a little bit before you ask for their assistance and mentorship? Do your due diligence first prior to approaching the person and asking for that help. At least they know you are willing to work. Otherwise, if you come to them, oh, let me pick your brain, you're trying to steal from me, and we ain't having that. Okay. We don't have time for that. We're high powered people, we're busy, we're on the go. We need to know that you're willing to put in the work, so we know what we're investing in, and vice versa. You know, if I come to Tanisha or Tia or Latoya, hey, can you help me with this? I need to read my sis book, right? Yes. And so that way she knows, hey, this is going to be a joint effort, a team effort, not just one person taking from the other.
Absolutely.
I think one thing too is that people need to separate a mentorship from a coach. I think a lot of times they mix it up. They're looking for someone to coach them, but they give it a mentor title. A mentor and a coach is not the same thing. A coach is there to draw up the plays and tell you what to execute. A mentor is a give and take relationship where you're communicating, this is my goal, and then they can try to help guide you along the way. A coach is not going to guide you. They're going to say you do A, B, C, and D in this order. So I think a lot of times we go into relationships thinking we want a mentor, but we really want a coach. So I think that's the big thing, we have to separate what we want.
And as a coach, I absolutely agree with that. You know, I always tell my clients, one of the things I tell them is, if you expect me to do everything for you, I'm probably not the one for you. And I'm okay with that. Right?
You need to pay me.
Right.
It comes with a price.
It comes with a price, and part of that price, and what we're talking about, even as far as coaching and mentors, everything comes with a price, right? And one of the biggest things that we give is our time.
Cool. And I was getting ready to share that, Susan. I think for me, it's always interesting, right? So my relationships, even with my relationships with these ladies here and the ladies in the audience, is very organic. I don't look at it as a mentor-mentee relationship. I look at it as a sisterhood, right? Now, I may be the older sister, but it's still a sisterhood. And so within that profile, right, there's some give and takes. I will share with people all the time, and I do have people approaching me, asking me to be their mentor. I'm like, oh, baby, I ain't got that kind of time. I don't, because it's an investment. And the thing about it is when we intentionally invest and we want that title as a mentor, you know, a lot of us want the title without willing to do what it all entails. They just want, oh, I mentored Tia. You know, that's my mentee. But again, what we have to understand is our time is very valuable. And it's okay to say no. And I've learned to say that quite often. And so, you know, and some people are taken off by that when they're like, you know, I want you to be my mentor. Well, first of all, it's not a forced relationship. Latoya, you know, affectionately say I'm her virtual mother. And she know, we may talk, like when I'm traveling, because she does all of my travel. We may talk quite often, but then we may go 6 months without speaking to each other. But she knows if I'm traveling, even if I'm not using her, I'm calling her and to say, hey, what are your thoughts about this? So I think it's, again, time is very valuable. And I think when we look at these relationships, we have to truly define what they are and what we're willing to obligate in terms of our time. Because time is money.
Time is money. And thank you guys for joining the conversation. Take a moment and go to the srastore.com and look at the life-affirming merchandise that we've created. There's beauty on the other side, and peace is the new rich, and more to come. Thank you. And I want to talk to time as it relates to intellect, right? There has to be, I think, in any type of relationship where we're talking, mentorship, and I keep coming back to guidance and support, because those things can fall into play without it being a quote unquote mentor-mentee relationship. One of the biggest things for me is an appreciation for intellect. I need you to think. I need you to know that you have a mind. And whether you are using it to full capacity or whether I'm using mine to full capacity, if you know how to think and if you appreciate your intellect, I can't come to you any kind of way. I can't tell you anything. And that's the reciprocity of the relationship, to be able to say, I hear you, but let's look at what that means and how this is going to be maneuvered for me. In your experience, or what you're looking for going forward, or even you yourselves, because of the position you all are in your spaces, someone is looking up to you to say, can you provide guidance and support for me? What is the value of the intellectual piece of the conversation, the relationship?
I think the guidance is very important, but first I think, backing up what Carrie said as far as time, we have to understand that an empty cup can't pour. Like if I'm empty, I can't mentor you, I can't coach you, I can't do anything. And if I'm empty, my intellect is going to be very limited because I'm not exercising properly. So I think you have to back up, like you said, and just stop and reevaluate, what is it that I'm looking for? What all do I want to learn? And then with the intellectual part of it, it's almost like okay with being wrong and okay with being right either way.
But wrong is even more important.
Yes, because one of my favorite quotes is never a failure, always a lesson learned. So even as I'm growing, I may fail, but I'm learning from that point of failure. So with our intellect, I think we just have to be okay with trying it and realize that the brain is a muscle. It's okay to exercise. It's okay to try and read a little bit more. We're so stuck on social media and things fast. If you don't want to read, turn on the audiobook. Just always push yourself and realize that you may think you know it all, but there's still more to learn. So I think, just improving ourselves daily will help our intellect and understand that, you have to exercise that muscle.
Tanisha?
I think a lot of the times people think that information is free. And that's why people don't see the value in hiring someone as a mentor. Like, people will ask you questions and think that it's okay, like, to ask those questions and there not be a price behind there. But you don't know how much time it took me to get that information to answer that question for you. So I think the purpose of a mentor is to provide that information and vice versa. But a lot of times people don't see the value in picking up a book or picking up an audiobook, like Latoya said. And that information, people study those things for years and years at a time. So what you may think I'm charging for is expensive at the time. It took me 10 plus years to learn those things.
That's why it's easy for me.
Yeah. So I think people don't see the value in information and how valuable information is and how to access it and how many free resources. If you're not gonna go get the free resources from the library or from YouTube or whatever, then yes, I'm gonna charge you because I have to go and get that information.
That's right.
Excellent point. I'm going to continue the dialogue, but I want to circle back to the price point.
All right. So, do you want to talk about it
No,
now?
no, you go.
Okay, so, well, the quote is, the saying is, when you pay attention.
Ooh.
So,
Say that again.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, rewind.
when you pay attention. What does that mean? My information is not free. It comes at a cost. If I spent the time in school, masters, bachelors, whatever else, certifications. Now, if I'm willing to give my information to you, I need to know how much value you expect or how much value you see that I can give to you. So because of that, you have the intellect needs to be there because you do understand, oh yes, this person is quote unquote the expert. Let me go ahead and invest my time or my money or whatever you see as value into this person so I can get what I need.
So I think when we're talking currency, a lot of people miss out on the value of sweat equity. And I think that's how I've gotten so far today, because when I couldn't afford a mentor, couldn't afford to pay someone to teach me the things I wanted to learn, I would offer my services. Like, let me give you my time, let me give you my talents, let me give you my treasures. So I may not have $1,000 to pay you, but I know what my superpowers are. My superpowers are community engagement. My superpowers are connecting, bringing a crowd. I bring good energy. You know what I'm saying? So if I could use my superpowers to help push your mission forward, then I could just learn from you through working up under you. So everybody that I've learned from have been business owners, and I've worked up under them and worked my way up. So now we on the same playing field because I've learned from you directly. And I think that's what's important to me with a lot of people who reach out to me. Okay, what's what are you pouring into me? Because I can't just pour into you all I have, because I have so many people to pour into, so many people that's dependent on me. So for me, I love people approach me from the standpoint of, how can I serve you? What can I volunteer with you and do? And I just feel like learning through those lived experiences are the best teachers.
You know, it's interesting. I think about in terms of my responsibility as a seasoned woman, and what is it that I owe to the next generation. And part of that goes back to what you guys said earlier about how are you pouring in, not just with your time, but are you supporting their efforts, right? Are you supporting, whether it's if you need to travel somewhere, are you supporting LaToya's travel agency, Tanisha? You know, I think about, she had a content creation training that I wanted to make sure that my deputy went to, because I knew the richness of Tanisha's course, and I've seen the benefit of it. And with, Tia and her Manifesting Mimosa, this is something that I had to be a part of. So I think what we have to understand, right, when we are in this space of being a mentor, Jacoby Pittman said to me, and I'll never forget this, when I was the youngin' coming up in the community space, right? She said, Carrie, you're going to get to sit at tables everybody's not invited to. However, you need to understand that when you sit at that table, you sit at that table for everybody who wasn't available. And when I say available, because we're often here, we can't find anyone, right? And it's like, no, you're just not looking in the right places. And so, because I've been blessed in this space, I don't need to make you room at this table. How about I'm going to just build 10 more damn tables, and we all going to sit at the table. And you're going to have your own seat. You don't have to be crowded to this table, because I'm going to create a space. And I think as a mentor, that's where we can be most beneficial, is when we create a space for those behind us to be able to sit comfortably and not at a crowded space. Let's create that space for them, because we have the capacity to do so.
And that is an absolutely wonderful point, particularly for those of us who are seasoned, right? When you talk about, I probably like everyone else, have tried to fit at a table, wanted to be at that table, right? Thought that table was the table. And either you outgrow it or you realize, it's not really for me. But I do think we have the capacity to not just do it on our own and create a space for them to come and sit at the table, but they have tables, right? And what I mean by that is the community, the people. So it's not as if I have to invent everything. I guarantee you, if I want to put on anything, Tia could probably do it a hell of a lot better than me. And I have no shame in that, right? So if I'm trying to create something and I'm looking for support, one, the support may come through volunteerism. The support may come that way. but the support may also come from a high respect for the level of skill. And so being okay with me saying there's a price point to that and I need to invest in it because that's where the expertise is. And I think a lot of times for us seasoned persons, we think, no, that's your job, right? That's your job. I'm the seasoned one. You know, your job is to give it away, you know, because I'm the seasoned one. But it doesn't work like that. Support doesn't build like that. And every time we touch a person, we're touching 3, 4, 5, 6 other people.
Correct.
And I think that's really important for us to be able to see as we talk about a cross-generational, you know, support. It is absolutely a 2, sometimes 3-way street, right? So with us getting together and realizing that there's some gaps, right? One of the things when I first started, I asked you, what is it that, you know, tell us some of the things that you need from us. Authenticity, transparency, relationship, organic communication, right? So I want to hear from Carrie and Christine. What do you all need from them to make it work, to make it a work in progress? What do you need from them?
Humility. Humility. Because oftentimes, especially when we talk about generationally, right? We've worked so hard as this generation to make it easier for the next generation. And so oftentimes, this generation don't know our struggles because we've taken those struggles, we've overcome them, and we made it easier. And so what we want to see is humility. We want to see them be authentic, right? Take off the mask. Take off the mask. Let me see you naked. And not physically, not really naked.
Be careful. Qualify.
You know, but just having, let's, you know, when we strip everything away, what's there? Your fears, you know, where your shortcomings are, what you're excited about, right? Because if I don't feel that level of humility, then there's nothing that I can share with you because you know it all.
Mm-hmm. Christine?
That's a good point, Carrie. The humility part, I was, earlier I was thinking that this generation is amazing because of the options that you all have. You don't take any crap from anyone, but at the same time, you do have to come with that humility because our way does still work. So, you know, you have social media, you have the instantaneous type things, but old school still does work. At least it's working for us. Tanisha talked about earlier the gatekeepers. You know, but you all know how to get around that as well. So that's what I admire about this generation. I don't have too much more to add to that.
Mm-hmm. I know I need 2 things. I need you to be flexible, knowing that I know there's more than one way to go about anything that we want to achieve, right? If we set a course, it doesn't have to stay the course. It'll stay the mission, it'll stay the purpose. But there is some flexibility. So I need the flexibility, and I think the flexibility comes if we can have authentic conversation and authentic dialogue about what's working and what's not working. Real, this is working, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not so much. So having some flexibility. And the other thing that I really cherish, and I think with the, well, I know with the relationships that I have, is listening. Can I finish a thought? Can you finish a thought? Can we go back and forth with that thought and build upon it? But I think a lot of times we're so fast to say, this is how it is going to be, but you didn't hear it. right? Or I didn't hear it, but we're talking about what I need from you. I need you to be pliable enough to slow down for a second. We gonna get there. We might have a couple more steps to take. And we may not agree that we have a couple more steps to take. Ultimately, we may say, okay, we got 3 steps, but can I get all 6 of my steps out first? Because we think different. I'm a processor. Our generation is, like Carrie said, we've gotten over and through so many things. We've had to take so many different steps, but you all, you know, come on, Miss Susan, what you saying? I need to be able to say, and then we could chop it up.
And you know, Susan, I'd like to add too, we gotta be able to check egos at the door.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and that's both ways.
Mm-hmm.
As the seasoned quote unquote mentors, just because it worked for us that way does not necessarily mean it's not an easier way to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think about Tanisha with real estate, and there's a young lady that I know that's in the real estate industry that's seasoned like us, and she's a dinosaur because she wasn't willing to check her ego at the door, and she thought, you know, this is the way I've always done it. This has worked for me, and this is the way, you know, I don't need social media. I don't need content. It's like, and you're not going to have a pipeline because, yes, it was successful for you then, but this is a whole nother generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks different. So I think for both sides, we got to check our ego.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
To piggyback off of that, with egos, I think with Black women in general, we face so many battles in other people, and we have to be so tough to other people. I think we forget to release that when we come to another Black woman.
Yeah.
So I think
That's really good.
that's a big problem when it comes to that ego that we're trying to leave at the door.
But Tanisha, do we make it easy? I mean, we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. As Black women, do we make it easy to check our ego at the door? I can tell you, because I often tell people, especially for me as a leader, I always wanted to be the leader that I wanted out of others. And I can tell you, having worked with, and actually I don't think I've ever worked for a Black woman. Okay. Interesting enough, I've never. However, I've had them in higher positions to me, but I've never, that's interesting, I just thought of it. I've never reported to a Black woman. But, yeah. But what I will say is being in a situation to where they were in a higher position than me, etc., it was not always easy to build those relationships with Black women because for whatever reason, colorism, etc., they didn't want to check their ego at the door.
I think,
Go ahead.
sorry. I think the ego checking comes from us feeling like there's a limit, like there's a quota. So there's one African American female Black woman that's the vice president. I can't connect with her because, and she's gonna push back on me because she's like, oh, you coming for my position. But I'm not coming for your position. I'm trying to create my own. So I think as we ego check, that's what we're realizing, that we can have multiple tables. Like you said, we don't have to all sit at one table. There's not only one McDonald's. There's not only one Target. There's multiples. Create your own table. But let me learn from you. Let me, learn at your table. That I can go create my own table. But I think instead of us collaborating, we push away, like you said, ego checking. Because, like Carrie says, I call her virtual mom because when I see her, I feel like I see her. When she's posting, when she's talking, when I see her with Shan, when I see her when Shan's telling my mommy said this, I feel like I know her. That's why I'm like, you my virtual mom, you're gonna have to just accept me. But I feel like I can come to her with different things because I feel like she's open, she's honest, and her ego is checked because I see the authentic her. Others, I don't feel like I could come to them because I only see them here. They don't tell me about how they got to that point. So I feel like, okay, I can't even approach her, And
I think it's when you say they don't tell me how they got to that point, I think we can best check ego. I did a training on 3 letters that will kill leadership. EGO, right? Your ego. It'll kill you, right? I think it becomes difficult because we don't invest in understanding ourselves. If I understood myself, if I was confident in the things that I did, if I knew my journey, if I really, and then not the sugar-coated piece, the not so good piece, the piece y'all ain't never gonna hear, you know, but if I've dealt with it, then I can have less of an ego, and I can be approachable, because ego requires you to know that you don't know everything, literally, and be able to open, and be able to be open to hear from someone else. So I think that is one of the things that makes it difficult, because we are just, the older generation, a lot of us, I'm not there, I'm past there, but a lot of us are just getting to begin to deal with why we are so competitive toward you. And it has nothing to do with you. You know, how our blackness has affected us, which has nothing to do with you. How we've been treated in the workplace, which has nothing to do with you. But if I don't deal with it, oh, I'm gonna project it on you, right? And I think that's where the ego comes in. So, one last word as we wrap up the conversation. As you can tell, we always can go further and longer. And of course, we've just started to touch the surface. We will meet back again. But one last positive word for the mentorship, the authentic support, and the guidance that we need from each other. What is going to move us forward? LaToya, you want to start?
I was gonna go last.
Carrie, she passed the baton to you.
Wow, okay, number one, I think there's several words. Number one, connectivity, right? How are we connecting with each other, and are we showing up as our authentic self? And lastly, when we connect and we're authentic, that means that we have to be transparent.
So I'll go. I would say succession planning. I don't think that we do enough of that in the Black community, because no one wants to feel like they time up. Like, we up next, point blank, period. Like, that's the truth. Like, we got next. So I think what's important to me when it comes to legacy building is, one, I try to live a model life. Like, I want to be a great role model to the people that's coming from behind me, and I want to feel like, I don't want to feel like I'm the only Tia Coleman. I want to feel like I'm creating young women and young girls to do what I've done times 10 once my time is up, because that's what will make me proud, not knowing that I'm the only Tia Coleman that can do certain things. And I think mentorship could be taken to a whole nother level if people just understood that, and not feeling like, well, I'm just going to bird feed you, or I'm going to compete with you to let you know, oh, I have more resources than you, so I'm going to go outdo you on this, versus just giving you everything I have and watching you be great and flourish.
Absolutely.
My word is reflection. You have to be able to take a step back and look at yourself and see how you can grow in a different direction, or if you've outgrown your space, period, is it time to move on? Let go of the old. Now it's time to manifest and grow up into the new. That's my word.
Well, you stole my words. So.
Take it out.
It's okay, I had to back up.
Yeah.
I'm going to say communication, and not just communication with other people, but communication with yourself. A lot of times people come to me for help with creating content and stuff like that, but a lot of the problem is within themselves and how they communicate to themselves daily. And communicating to yourselves and understanding yourselves will help you figure out what type of mentor you need. Sometimes we go for the highest mentor. We go for, someone might go to Carrie Davis, but they're not ready for Carrie Davis yet.
Trust.
So,
I told a friend of mine, she said, you think I Carrie about mentor? I said, I literally said you got to be ready.
Yes. You gotta be ready. So communication is my word.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of what you guys were saying, my word is honesty, just being honest. And like she said, you may not be ready for that type of mentor or that type of coach. You have to be honest with where you are and honest with what are you going to put into the mentorship, mentee relationship. Do I have the time? Am I able to pour into my mentor like I need my mentor to pour back into me? Because again, it's a two-way street. So I think if you're honest with yourself and where you are, what your goal is, what your plan is, then I think the relationship and the generational growth that could come from the mentorship relationship, I think that'll you get a lot of success. So I think my word is honest.
Okay, and I'll close it out. My word is reciprocity. Not quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Reciprocity. And what I mean by that is go into any type of guidance, support, mentorship knowing that I have just as much to give as I need to receive, because we're dealing with powerful women, and I don't expect to go in and give you everything. I don't expect you to just take everything, but I expect to be fed. Reciprocity is the name of the game, right? So once again, we are out of time. However, the conversation will continue. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us as we just began to scratch the surface on authenticity as it relates to across-generational support and mentoring. And I'd like to come back on our next conversation and really key in on that authentic, transparent, honest things that can get us to the next level. So I want to thank every one of you ladies for taking your time, and cannot leave without giving a huge shout out, not just to Carrie Davis, my business mentor and friend, but the sponsor of this particular live through Wealth Watchers, to celebrate women who are moving toward wealth in generations across all type of spectrums. Wealth Watchers, we thank you, and we certainly appreciate your relationship and your friendship. Thank you for joining the conversation. Across social media, all of their tags will be posted, and join them as they begin and continue their journey. Susan R. Appleton across social media, Power Conversations and Connections with Susan, a bi-weekly podcast where again we talk life, the beauty and vulnerability on the journey to self-love and evolving into our best selves. Y'all be good, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.